20 million people have got the Aadhaar number since September 2010. There is a crucial meeting of the Union Cabinet scheduled for tomorrow morning where the government is to decide whether the UID scheme should be extended because there's a turf war taking place. You've got the Union Home Minister P. Chidambaram on the one side saying that this is a security mess, and you've got Pranab Mukherjee, Montek Singh Ahluwalia and Nandan Nilekani on the other saying that the UID scheme needs to be expanded and extended immediately. What is the way forward? Are MPs and MLAs guilty of compromising India's national security? Joining us for perspective on this burning debate, we've got Ravi Shankar Prasad, national spokesperson of the Bharatiya Janata Party, Ajit Doval, former chief of the Intelligence Bureau, Usha Ramanathan, legal activist and researcher on law, poverty and rights, Sanjay Jha, co-founder of HamaraCongress.com, Pawan Duggal, one of the leading cyber law experts, and Shavi Sodhi, she works with Mission Convergence. I want to begin by asking Mr. Ravi Shankar Prasad what the opposition makes of this expose, because so far the BJP has been opposing the expansion of this scheme. The government says it is imperative. Do you feel that this investigation really brings out your case against the UID and shows just how easy it is for people, fake citizens, to get these UID cards, sir?
Now, just one simple clarification. I'm now the General Secretary and Chief Spokesperson for the last more than 2 years. That correction needs to be met. As far as this whole issue is concerned, we have been raising it in a very decisive manner. I myself held a press conference. Under the Citizenship Act, there is a proper provision, Section 14A to be precise, where the Government of India is required to make a national register of citizens by the Registrar General of India and also an authority. The whole issue is the integrity of the data being collected. People are eligible, people are citizens of India. All this scheme for Aadhaar Yojana should go to really those who reside in India, who are residents of India, who are citizens of India, or the taxpayers' money should be squandered away for those who have no legitimate right to stay here, apart from impinging upon genuine issues of national security. Now, there is a difference, and I'm sorry your sting operation today, for which I wish to congratulate you, only confirms that the integrity of the audit, the data being collected, the people being granted these Aadhaar unique identity cards in the most reckless manner possible, that too in the heart of the capital of India, is a very sorry state of affair. What will happen in Northeast, on border states, in border districts? Therefore, I think still the Government of India must take a close look at it. And we have requested that this whole process be stayed forthwith, leave aside its proper expansion, unless and until these very simmering issues of abiding concern for the country are.
Mr. Prasad, there is a crucial meeting of the cabinet taking place tomorrow morning where the main issue is whether the UID scheme should be extended or not. Opinion is split down the middle within the government. On the back of this investigation, do you feel that the case is now stronger for the government to review the security mechanics involved in the scheme as opposed to giving a blind extension?
You're absolutely right, Rahul. As I said always, the whole issue is the integrity of the data. Who is the person? Under the Citizenship Act, the citizenship register shall be maintained of the citizens of India. Under the Aadhaar Yojana, it is the residents. And if the residence proof is being bandied about in such a reckless manner which you showed on your channel, again I repeat, what will happen on the border? Infiltration is a big problem. Terrorists are sneaking in. They are sending us columnists. Terrorists we are seeing of Indian Mujahideen and a whole lot of people, how they are trying to indoctrinate people. Now in this process, this unique identity card gives you a cover of legitimacy that you are closer to being an Indian citizen, even if you are not exactly, with all the entitlements which it commends. I have been traveling in Northeast quite extensively. Can we deny so many fake ration cards have been prepared by those who come across the border? How can the Government of India be oblivious to these concerns? They're quite serious issues.
Identity card scheme. Now the fact is, our investigation reveals grave security concerns. Ravi Shankar Prasad says we must consider all of these before we decide whether the scheme needs to be extended or not. Who takes ownership? Who says, I have vetted and verified all these forms. I believe that they are correct, and I believe that this citizen needs to be given a UID scheme card.
Let me start with how UID is different from other identity cards. It is a number in the first place, it is not a card. Okay? The second thing is,
But you've got fake numbers being given, you've got numbers being given to citizens.
Every other card has a purpose behind it. For example, a driving license. It is meant for people who want to drive. A ration card. It is meant for drawing rations from the ration shop. But this is a number which actually gives you an identity. To that extent, it promotes an Indian identity as against a caste identity or a religious
So that may
identity.
be the case, but the question here is the security loopholes involved in the counting of these numbers.
Where is the security? It does not matter. It may be a reckless way of enrolling at the station. But at the end of the day, those same enrollments go to a central ID registry where they are compared and contrasted with other enrollments. And eventually it is just one number per one
So
person.
what if it wasn't our reporter but Kasab standing in the line? He would have had the UID number and would have had the legitimacy that Mr. Prasad is talking about of going anywhere in the country and doing what he pleased.
The UID is not expected to look after security issues. These security issues and concerns will continue irrespective of whether there is a UID number or a UID
Let
project
Mr. Prasad
or
respond
not.
to that. That's what we've been hearing from the team involved in the UID scheme, that don't blame us for these security concerns. It will be the case in any scheme of entitlement. There are fake ration cards, there are systemic problems, and the UID is as immune to this, is as guilty of being responsible for those systemic problems as any other scheme. So don't just single out the UID because it's new. This is a part and parcel of all schemes in India, Mr. Prasad.
Well, Rahul, my reply would be very blunt. Then what the hell for thousands of crores of taxpayers' money is being wasted? That is the simple question.
I can respond.
We have got a proper, no, please let me complete. We have got the voter card given by the Election Commission of India only to citizens of India. Even a driving license, you have to identify who are you. You are an Indian citizen, or if you are a foreign citizen, that proper format in the application form is there all over the country. Therefore, when you go with that, the proof of a voting, this driving license or a voter's card issued by the Election Commission carries it with itself the authenticity of your status as a bona fide citizen of India. And if you are a foreigner, in case of a driving license, that is also mentioned. You have the PAN card for the income tax purposes. Yes, it is for income tax purposes. But in PAN card also, now you know very well, you have to disclose as to what is the nature of your citizenship status in the country. If there is a foreigner multinational are there, if they need a PAN card, they will disclose that. Therefore, securities issues are vetted at the very outset by granting these cards. Ration card also, it carries a legitimacy, and there is some verification at the local level by the Tahsildar or the block development officer, etc. You all know the whole process. Therefore, fake ration card is there. Now, when you are making unique identity card, you cannot be completely oblivious. Sorry, security is not our concern. Because whatever I know of unique identity card, by the grant of this card, you become entitled to access to the large amount of thousands of crores of various beneficiary schemes.
How can the
Proper
UID
address of
say
these
that
concerns are
security is not
important.
a concern?
This is full of viruses.
Security issues will be there in any kind of card, in any scheme. I mean, that is something which has to be addressed irrespective of whether you have a UID number or not. The UID number does not enhance security concerns, does not, it actually tries to cut down on the, or make it more watertight, the security issues, because it links one person to one card. And you cannot have duplicate. For example, the case of passports. Now, a man like Kasab would have had perhaps 3 passports or 4 passports. If his UID had been on one passport, that could not be duplicated. That will be prevented. Duplicate passports will be prevented.
Mr. Ravishankar Prasad, is the problem not to a great extent with callous netas? Now, in both these cases, They happen to be Congress MPs and MLAs. The BJP legislator that we approached said, no, first come back to me with a rent agreement, only then will I consider it. That happened in the case study that we were looking at. But the fact is, there would be questions about whether MPs and MLAs should have this right of giving because a lot of people use these certificates as a vote garnering scheme, that they know that there are people in the area, you give them the certificate in the hope that they'll come and vote for you.
Well, Rahul, your point is well taken. But the issue of national security is too important to be sacrificed at the behest of politicking. If my party MLAs have shown some courage, kudos for them. If the Congress have not done, they need to become more mature in the quest for national security. But the larger issue is, when you are having this exercise, these concerns have to be addressed. Even the passport analogy is wrong. Passport can be given to a person who is an Indian citizen or an Indian resident abroad with an NIA status. Now we have a case of people of Indian origin. If you are dependent, you have to state your fathers, etc. If anyone makes a fake card, a passport, there's a different game altogether. Anyone can have a fake UID as well. But how, I am on a basic premise, Rahul, how can issues of national security be ignored while undertaking this massive exercise at the cost of taxpayers' money? That is indeed the fundamental premise. Can we ignore the threat of terrorism? Can we ignore infiltration? Can we ignore the design of terrorists across the border? This will give at least a semblance of legitimacy to them to show I am not a terrorist, I am not a foreigner, I am not come from Pakistan or Bangladesh as the case may be, I am an Indian. How do you address that? Our demand is very clear. Just last point, Rahul, my demand is please expedite the creation of the National Register of Citizens known as Population Register. Expedite that, have a proper sync with both. What is the harm?
I want to go across to Sanjay Jha and get his sense, because this is a scheme your government is trying to push very hard. The Prime Minister, Rahul Gandhi himself, has spoken in favor of the UID scheme. My investigation reveals very grave security lacuna in the manner in which these numbers are being doled out. It's being done callously, recklessly. Even the officials of the UID who are present in those booths are not checking. They say it's not our headache. Whatever card we get, we just push ahead with. That's not okay. We're heading towards a national security nightmare, Sanjay.
Rahul, let me just first start by stating a very pertinent fact to this entire debate, which has also been stated by C.K. Prahlad in his famous book, The Fortune at the Bottom of the Pyramid, that when you look at people in countries like India, and there are many countries like us where there are poor people, but let's take India definitely, that when we have people who have absolutely no proof to say who they are. I mean, they cannot even tell you that if this is their name, where do they belong, what is an evidence that they have to corroborate their own personalities or their identities. It's a mammoth challenge. So to provide...
No, Sanjay, the debate here is not a larger question on the need for the UID. The debate here is on the security loopholes. Let's stay focused on our investigation and focus on whether the security loopholes need to be addressed or not. That's the key contention here.
No, I agree with that. I'm just coming to the point. The point is that we need a UID because it provides a legal identity to many of those people running into millions in India who have no access to establish their identities to the rest of the world. Number one. Number two is that this is, Rahul, remember, perhaps the largest biometric exercise in the world. And there's no denying that it is, of course, a huge, gargantuan challenge. Number three, to the question of what Ravi Shankar Prasad was mentioning, on the issue of security, on the issue of taxpayers' money. Number one, at this point of time, the UID is about the residents of India. I mean, whether it's going to be granted a citizenship status, that's for the cabinet to decide. That's still inconclusive. And I'll probably go with the fact that at the moment it should be residents first, because there can be a separate mechanism to establish a citizenship. Number four, as far as the taxpayers' money is concerned, we need to recognize that end of day, when the UID starts getting operational, it is going to save, perhaps it's going to pay for itself in 1 or 2 years in saving the leakages that are currently happening and all the wonderful social welfare schemes that we get critical about because we say it's getting...
When the UID is properly operational, the leakages that will get plugged will make this entire exercise worthwhile. Therefore, we should look, Mr. Doval, at the bigger picture, and even if national security gets compromised by a few MLAs, a few MPs, and a few fake doctors, that's something we should live with, keeping the bigger picture in mind. How do you want to respond, Mr. Doval, to what Sanjay Jha said?
Well, what I want to respond is that the whole exercise had started as a national security exercise where the group of ministers in 2001 recommended issuing of the multi-purpose national identity card. In 2006, the below poverty line identity cards were issued by a section of by one department, and a Pranab Mukherjee committee was made in December 2006 telling that let them be merged. That is 90% of the national security and 10% of the people that is the economic indicators may also be included in that. What happened by a design that the security component out of it was thrown away. It was said that the nationality need not be mentioned. It was mentioned that there should be no parameter by which any access can be made by which his identity can be established for securing the national security. No person less than the chairman of the authority, National Identity Authority, has said that national security is not our concern. Even the concept of the population register said that there is no parameter there about the nationality of the person. Now, what is it going to give? This 1900 crore rupees are being spent about giving a person a number. And number means what? His age, his sex, his address as you have found out, that is residential address as it is given, and his biometrics. How does it help the nation in any way? Even for the developmental purposes of the people below poverty line, if a person with this thing goes to a kerosene oil depot, probably he can go to 10 depots and draw the kerosene, because each one of them will not have the biometric this thing. They can only go and refer it to the data center, and they will have no communication system by which they can communicate with fingerprints and the iris impressions to the center. So it makes no difference. It's the biggest fraud of the country. Not only it seriously compromises our national security. Anybody seeing any policeman seeing a person with an identity card, with a national emblem on that, with a national flag on that, he thinks that it's the government of India's this thing. I tell you, I think this is a big mistake that we are doing. We have completely forgotten the purpose for which the multi-purpose national identity card was meant.
In the defense of the UID program.
How would you know that a person is a terrorist unless there is some prior information about it or something? We enroll every resident, and I'm sorry, but will a person come and tell you that I'm a terrorist or something like that? So it's a question which cannot be answered like that. And in fact, I would like to counter your statement by saying that any sort of entitlement, any sort of document that is being prepared today, the possibility of somebody entering it is very high, and it is happening all the time. This is not something that is hidden from our knowledge.
Common substance of the defense put forth by the UID team is that if a terrorist wants to indulge in some hanky-panky, he can do so regardless of what sort of security mechanics you put in place. I want to introduce Usha Ramanathan, who looks at this very, very closely, madam. You've heard from Monte Ahluwalia, you've heard from the DDG of the UID. Do you believe that this program, this scheme, is a national security nightmare, or do you think that these are minor issues which we can work out and resolve?
I actually think that this is both a national security and a personal security problem, and they're serious problems. We've been raising these questions ever since the project started, and we've received no answers. Let me just put what you've got in your sting operation in context. You have been able to show that there is a problem in the enrollment process, but there is a problem that happens after that too. Of course, there's a problem with personal security because data which is being held so loosely with all these people to whom it's being outsourced, we've heard of it being sold, being handed over. It's extremely loose data. The second thing is, I think we're being too lax about this. The Parliamentary Standing Committee had a very good reason for saying that you cannot carry on with the enrollment of biometric data till you have parliamentary approval for it. We have nothing like that, neither for the NPR, and of course the UID-AI is not subject. According to them, all they need is executive order and they can do whatever they want. I think that's a problem. The third way in which it is a security threat is because of the companies that they are using for this. We've been telling them for ages that the companies that they are using as biometrics and for deduplication and who they are bringing into the CIDR, these are all people who have very close links with foreign intelligence agencies. Why would we be handing over our
how would you
data?
establish that? A lot of people say that this is just cynicism of the left-winging intellectuals and that there is no proof to back these claims.
In fact, we've asked a question of them through an RTI asking, these companies, actually it's up on the net, we didn't have to do too much searching to find out. And it's evident that these are foreign companies which have these links. When we asked them, the reply we got was that we have no means of establishing whether these are foreign companies or not. It's so trivializing of such a serious issue. So that's one of the kind of problems. The second kind of thing is, where is the data being held? You look at the Parliamentary Standing Committee report. They actually say the National Informatics Centre was saying that data which is so sensitive should be held in a governmental database. It appears it's not even being held in a governmental database.
Which, like Infosys gets some outsourcing contracts, Nandan Nilekani is going to outsource them. People are raising questions about the security involved in the handling of their data, and we've seen in our sting operation that you've got all these fellows sitting outside the UID booth, signing off on fake documents, and the UID people are giving cards on the basis of fake documents. So do you think we need to reassess the security mechanics involved in this?
I think when we began, it was a wonderful idea. As when we started implementation, it suddenly got into shambles. And today, what your expose has shown is a stark reminder that it's not just about national security. It's also about a debacle about sensitive personal data of Indians as a nation. Because it's strange that you're having a UID project which does not have parliamentary sanction. There's not a law passed by Parliament which legalizes either the UID card, the UID number, or the UID authority. More importantly, the UID authority or this entire exercise is actually collating data and information in the electronic form. And this is not general data, this is sensitive personal data which is so classified by the government by its notification of 11th of April 2011. And Section 43A of the IT Act clearly says that if you are an entity that's handling, dealing or processing with sensitive personal data, you are mandated to exercise reasonable security practices and procedures as you go forward. And if you fail to do so, and thanks to your negligence, some wrongful loss is caused to somebody or wrongful gain is caused to somebody, you are liable to pay unlimited damages by way of compensation. Now, it appears that this is the law of the land, but it does not appear that this is seeming to be applicable to the UID. We have a huge problem in our hands.
No, but let me put that question to Ajit Doval. The point that was made by the DDG of the UID program, that you can't terror foolproof any scheme which involves crores of people. If the likes of Kasab want to find a way into and make inroads in any program such as this, they will find some way, because there are millions of people, several of whom have no identity at all, and having such identity is better than having no identity at all, Mr. Doval.
No, but my point is that firstly that this formulation that you can have no method is wrong. We can at least have a method by which we are able to make a person declare his nationality. And we will be able to find out if a person has given a wrong nationality, then he is liable for prosecution. Now see the Draft Act. Draft Act says that no criminal action can be taken on any issue relating to the NI, except on the initiative of the National Identification Authority. It means that any individual, or that MP, or that MLA, if he has done anything wrong, he cannot even be prosecuted for that. There is a blanket ban. That is, let everything, let it from the foreign companies, the foreign money, the middle agents, the man who is taking 50 rupees from each person, none of them can
Let Sanjay Jha respond to that. These are very, very serious security concerns that are being raised by security experts like Mr. Doval. And the fear that we have, Sanjay, hear me out, the fear that we have is somewhere in this turf war in the government, the fight between the Home Ministry and the Finance Ministry, it's becoming a territorial issue. The larger import of what we are doing is being lost, and it's becoming a personality clash. He doesn't like it, I like it, let's push it forward. That's not the way we should be assessing the working of such a significant and important scheme.
Now, Rahul, I can tell you for a fact that let's recognize that this is a mammoth exercise. When it's successfully articulated, it will have a phenomenal impact in terms of ensuring that the funds that need to go to the needy people in this country reach them. That is the primary objective behind this giving of the UID, unique identity number, to the millions of people in this country. To answer the issue of security, now we have to have some faith. I mean, Nandan Linikani has gone on record to say that the biometric data that is being captured is being done in the most sophisticated encrypted manner. Now, encrypted data has got its own, logistical protection.
We are finding that this is an experiment that's being conducted on a whole population with absolutely nothing to back it for what it, till now we don't even know whether authentication can work. Deduplication, everything that has been said so far is only said by the project proponents who have it in their interest to say that this is a good project. We haven't even had, the problem that we are in today is because before we started the project, we didn't even do a basic feasibility test. And you're not willing to admit to that. You're not willing to admit to how many lacunae we left before we started. I mean, I agree with Mr. Sanjay that this is an extraordinarily big project. It requires forethought. And now when we have to pause, we are not even willing to pause to see what kind of
problem
problems
is
we face.
that the need for introspection is not being felt. They're going to bash on regardless.
Yeah, I'm sorry, but the faith cannot be.
I'll add to the point that the real reason why there needs to be a debate between both the Ministry of Home Affairs and the UID is only because you need to rationalize your expenses. I totally agree with that logic. There don't need to be duplicating some expenditure, whether it's manpower, whether it's technology, whether it's...
No, but I have some very valid fears. I mean, my identity and all my data is with these people at the UID. What if the data is not secure? We've seen how callously they're accepting these forms, rolling out these UID cards.
And what exactly, we don't even have any information as to what kind of level of security is the UID project going in. We're talking about encryption. Now, encryption per se is not legally allowed in India. And the only legal bit of encryption allowed in India is 40-bit. We don't even know what the UID authority is doing. And if so, it is doing, is it legal? Can it be challenged? And who is there to back up the authenticity claim of this entire...
I think what you are confusing is, you are confusing the enrollment process with the UID generation. The enrollment process, there are a lot of gaps which you have rightly pointed out. Now,
But this is what we exposed. Right? Will we go further? Maybe Laguna will be exposed.
All these MLAs, I mean, it is something which can be addressed, that the MLAs are recommending names without really looking at it. But at the end of the day, when these names go to the CIDR, there will be only one number that will be generated.
I'm out of time, but I want a very quick final word from A.K. Doval. Sir, the point that's being made by proponents of the UID is that don't blame the UID scheme. It's the MLA and the MP who are guilty. Act against them. Don't blame the whole scheme. Don't pull this project down. Very quickly, final words, sir.
The whole scheme is totally a fruitless exercise. It is neither going to meet any of our developmental requirements as is being made out. I think we don't have time, as I have told you. It is not going to meet anyone. 82% people have got the election cards. You have got 34% people who have got so many other types of cards and passports. But it is a great danger to the national security, and I think the Home Minister's contention on this point is perfectly correct. And they were going ahead with the scheme in a very systematic way in the border areas, in the tribal areas, in the coastal areas, and that was being done after due verification.
Okay, I'm completely out of time on the show. This is a very crucial debate, and I'm glad that we've been able to put it on center stage. All hands are still up, that the debate isn't over, but the fact is, this matter is coming up before the cabinet tomorrow. Let's hope the government introspects, assesses the lacuna, plugs those holes, and then figures out the right way forward. For the moment, to all my guests this evening for joining us on this very crucial debate, national security, and to all the schemes that we have in our country. Thank you very much.